High above the Pine Ridge Golf Club, a good look at the surrounding area just east of Tracktown, USA, in the Mohawk Valley. Beautiful site that has hosted this Dellinger event many years now, Tom, and spectacular weather. This is really, for a lot of us, the reason we live in Oregon. These cool mornings, which will be cool through this race, I think. It'll get up into the upper 70s, but not till later in the day.
Exactly, and right now at race time for the men's race, we're about 60 degrees or so, which is, you can't be more ideal for a 8-kilometer track. You see it 56, I guess, is the official weather. I do want to mention the course records. Cooper Tier, a guy that we know all too well, 23:05.1 from 2021. But what's interesting, Paul, is when this event was held on Priest Trail, Josh Roatinsky at BYU had the course record. Well, his niece, Taylor, will be running today in the women's race for BYU. And, you know, from time to time, she has been a scorer for them. Only a sophomore.
Yeah, Oregon has staged this in a couple of locations. Not a team that has yet developed a sort of home cross-country course. So many great venues now that are sort of built, purpose-driven for the sport of cross-country. We'll see that up at the University of Wisconsin a little bit later on in the early October with Nuttycombe. But you think of other, great schools that have really sort of invested in building sort of purpose-driven cross-country. This is a converted golf course. It provides fast, and in this case, it'll be good footing. But every year's kind of a little bit different based on how the golf course has been managed.
Exactly, and it's been a very dry summer in Oregon. There was rain about 2-3 weeks ago. But one thing is, I really think it favors those middle distance runners, those speed burners, and I can't wait. I know it's early. I know it's a possible redshirt season, but I just can't wait to see Simeon Birnbaum and Connor Burns and Tayson Echohawk go out there today. I'm curious as to what Schumacher's strategy will be. We've seen in this race before, like last year, all of Oregon's women's runners ran together for the first couple of miles, and then boom, the race was on. So I'm curious as to see how this will unfold.
Yeah, and it's always important to note that runners that are racing unattached doesn't mean that their season is officially now a red shirt season. I think Jerry talked a little bit about just kind of gauging kind of the fitness level of the various folks on the roster. It is sizably more deep than it was a year ago when he was coming in and retooling the program after the departure of Robert Johnson. And Jerry's obviously got a heritage in this particular season.
Yes.
Has performed at a high level, and if he sees something in those unattached athletes, could very well be an easy decision to put him in uniform for the rest of the season. It is a very
One more time.
sunny and near perfect day for the racing here in Springfield, Oregon. Pine Ridge Golf Club, the host venue for this Bill Dellinger Invitational, part of a big weekend of a sport in Tracktown, as they'll bring the primetime show into Eugene at Autzen Stadium on Saturday for a 12:30 kickoff. Colorado and Oregon. That is an eagerly anticipated matchup, as it is often when Colorado and Oregon meet on
cross country,
on the cross country trail. Not
indeed,
not happening this particular year, but we'll get set to racing here. It is the men racing at 8,000 meters, followed by the women's race, which will be 6K, and we are underway at the 2023 Bill Dellinger Invitational. 4 loops here, Tom, of 2 kilometers each.
Yes, and I do want to mention we have 293 runners.
Are you going to name them all now?
No, I won't. I definitely will not name them all. 14 total teams, and of course unattached. We have 2 nationally ranked teams. Now that's Portland. Their A crew, though, ran at the Roy Griak today and finished 4th. But we do also have the Ducks, who are ranked 15th, and 5 regionally ranked teams.
Well, you said you'd be looking forward to seeing Simeon Birnbaum out on the race course today, and
there he is.
There he is
in the front.
And it goes without saying. We talk about this a lot during the course of our coverage of these college meets. Is that we're so fortunate now to see these talented young high schoolers gaining confidence and experience, and the performances that are just sort of redefining the record books. But the beauty of moving up in classifications is The challenge now is you aren't necessarily the number one guy each and every day. So I think it will be a learning experience for a lot of these guys. Connor Burns, Simeon Birnbaum among them, just trying to get a comfort level with a guy next to him who maybe he's not even heard of, who's right there on his shoulder when he thinks he's out pretty strong in the early going.
Well, Paul, you're really good because Connor Burns has just gone into the lead here. What I love about these freshmen, and especially Birnbaum, they have no fear. Simeon Birnbaum has never feared a runner in his entire life. And it's that kind of confidence and brio that is so important. And that's why I kind of go back, and I've said it before, and people probably will disagree with me, but I saw Steve Prefontaine run. And I think Birnbaum has all of the qualities, all the characteristics of a Prefontaine-like runner. And remember that Simeon has range just like Pre did, 147.96 for 800, 337.93 for 1500, 357.53 for the mile. He brings his best in the big events. We know he can do cross country. We've seen him at the national championships there, where he finished 6th, which is pretty good for a miler.
So underway here with the Bill Dellinger Invitational. This is the men's race to be followed by the women's race at about 45 minutes past the hour. And again, the talented group of Oregon freshmen among the field that numbers almost 300 today, but most all of them are actually racing as unattached athletes here as well. We'll get several splits out on the course that'll give us the opportunity to identify some of these leaders, as well as, and this is the beauty of cross country, it is not about your number one guy and where he is in relation to the lead. It's down to that 5th place guy on your team and where that will factor into the team score.
No question about it, and I really like what Cal Poly has done. I mean, they really have a good team. I don't think the country knows just how good they are. Davis Cove, who was the transfer from LSU, he won the Arturo Barrios cross-country meet at A&M a couple years ago, so he can scale. He's a 3:56.38 miler. He was 2nd in the SEC indoor mile in 2023 earlier this year, and then 5th in the SEC 1500. And you can see a bunch of Oregon runners now that are moving to the fore here. Connor Burns still in that lead group as well with the sunglasses. Elliott Cook is probably the guy amongst the Oregon runners, and maybe Hussein, who would be a potential favorite here. Cook won their first cross-country meet earlier this year, the Linfield Harrier Classic. He was 7th in the NC2A indoor mile last year, and don't forget, he won the Pac-12 800 a year ago and was 4th in the 1500. I mean, the guy's a legit, really good middle distance runner, and you put that with Schumacher's coaching, and you could have a very special athlete.
So you see this front pack now that's coming through in the early going here as they get through that first timing apron, which affords us the opportunity to see some of the names start to populate our live results and can relay them on to you. Archie Noakes is among the leaders there, and then the pair from Oregon, Reinhard Harrison and Quincy Norman, and then a trio from Cal Poly, Aiden MacArthur, William Fellini-Haas, and Anthony Guerra. Ethan Brooks up there as well, and some of those unattached names that we had mentioned, Simeon Birnbaum among them, Giuliano Scasso, Josh Edwards, and Isaiah Sturry, all among some of the unattached athletes that are racing here today.
And Paul, Archie Noakes, the unattached runner, he has a lifetime best of 13:52.41 in the 5K, so he's definitely a legit runner. But I love Reinhard Harrison. He just won this past summer the USATF under 20 1500 meters. Remember him in Florida as one of the greatest middle distance runners in Florida high school history. He won their state championship in 2022. And also, he is the 7th fastest, I don't think people realize, the 7th fastest runner all time at 1500 on the US under 20 list. So He redshirted last year, but boy, he really came to the fore at that USATF Under 20 Championship.
Got a good shot of Archie Noakes there, trying to make a turn and try to put maybe at least a half step on the rest of the field here. You're seeing also our live stats populating on the left side of your screen. That is real-time updating also of the team scores at that last split point, with Cal Poly in the early leadership position, but a lot of racing left to go. Oregon followed by UCLA, Cal State Fullerton, and California rounding out the top 5.
And Paul, Cal Poly has all their big guns there, 4 of the top 8 at that first intermediate split. Aiden McCarthy is such a big talent. I was a little disappointed he ended up 7th at the NCAA 800, but he's very much capable of doing more. 146.26, 339.56 man, but also can move up. 3rd in the Big West Cross Country Championships last year. Anthony Guerra was the Big West Steeplechase champion last year. And as we mentioned, Davis Cove, that 356 miler, and William Fellini Haas was 2nd at the Big West Championship. So Cal Poly, I don't know how in the world they were ranked 7th in the West. That's just a mystery to me. But anyway, they have all their big guns in there right at the top.
So here comes the second split on the day, with Quincy Norman now officially at that split. The leader here at 7:07 on the clock, followed by Noakes and then McCarthy of Cal Poly. Oregon beginning to break up that Cal Poly group a little bit as well. Anthony Guerra is now down in a tie for 8th position, but still only a second off that lead. Elliott Cook of Oregon slowly and steadily moving up in the standings as well. As you start to see the scores now populate, they'll do update in real time. So as those athletes get their 5th spot in the order, those team scores then are adjusted somewhat. Oregon and Cal Poly, though, appear now to be tied with 38 points apiece, with still a lot of running on this golf course to come.
And we expected that for sure, that this would be a real battle between the Ducks and the Mustangs. A couple of notes on those results that have come in. Josh Edwards, who may be at Oregon redshirt this year, as you pointed out, maybe not. He and Giuliano Scazzo were in that lead group. Simeon Birnbaum has dropped a couple seconds back. Tayson Echohawk also in that group, a couple of seconds back. And UCLA's best runner is pretty darn good, Dylan Wilbur. He's right up there too. He's a 347.28 1500 meter man and was 2nd in UCLA's first cross-country race of the year, the LMU South Bay Twilight. And of course, UCLA has suffered a bit with their head coach, Sean Brosnan, leaving the great Newberry Park coach. Spent just a year at UCLA and did really remarkable work, but he is now gone. And so UCLA is certainly in that transition phase.
Well, Tom, you talked about it in respect to Cal Poly. I mean, I think the thing that all the NCAA sports are dealing with now is this transfer portal and the ability for athletes to, make sort of instantaneous decisions about their career. And, we're seeing that certainly, and we were joking about the football matchup tomorrow with Deion Sanders basically reinventing a 111 Colorado squad with 50 new transfers in. Cal Poly benefiting. Oregon is benefiting from UCLA's change in a coaching situation. They've got 2 athletes that we'll see coming up in the women's race that are currently unattached but have come from UCLA to even make the Oregon women stronger. It is in the right situation for the right school with the right message to prospective student athletes. You can turn a program around like that.
Oh, no question about it. And one thing about what Deion Sanders did, he only had 24 players of his original group that he kept this year. And, of course, that injury to Hunter, the two-way player, is going to hurt them tomorrow. I predict the Ducks will win. But let's get back to the race, so to speak. Another guy that's kind of making a move up there is Ethan Godsey of UC Santa Barbara. I had mentioned him as a possibility. He was 5th in the Big West Preview cross-country meet, but he also won the Big West 5K in a kick last year. So he's got some leg speed, and you got to wonder, on this pace, there's an awful lot of guys still in that lead pack, which leads me to believe that it's not really all that fast yet.
So back to a look at the leaders here as they work their way here now past the 10 minutes, nearing 11 minutes on the clock. 8,000 meters the distance from high above as they work their way around on this loop at Pine Ridge Golf Club. The spectacular setting here for the racing, and you see them going over that next timing mat. So Archie Noakes back in the lead, Reinhard Harrison, Josh Edwards, Quincy Norman, and Connor Burns. So the top 5 athletes in the field right now, all connected to Oregon, 2 of them officially running in Oregon singlets. But that was the story really we thought would unfold here today. Really not necessarily talking about the strength of the Oregon program with the uniforms that are being worn today, but the potential of this program. And as this unfolds, it's going to be decision time for, Jerry Schumacher. How do you manage this depth where everyone wants a spot to run, but how do you manage that over the course of not only this season, but into indoors and outdoors and giving everyone an opportunity to shine?
It's amazing. 11 of the top 14 in this race right now are from Oregon. You can see Aiden McCarthy there on the very left-hand side of the screen, and we just saw Anthony Guerra pass by. But yeah, if you're Jerry Schumacher, judging by what we've seen so far, this is an embarrassment of riches. His guys came to play today, and they look very good. And Connor Burns, wow, up there in 5th right now. And you never really know, Paul, as they transition from high school to college, how it's all going to go because there's so many changes in their lives. Connor Burns is coming from Ashland, Missouri to Eugene, Oregon, and that is enough of a change, but then to different coaches and things of that nature. But boy, it looks like he's really fit.
Now you look at the updated team scores populating in real time on the left side of your screen. It was a tie between Oregon and Cal Poly at the last split number 2, about 11 minutes in, about 7 minutes in, and now nearing 13 minutes. The difference between those schools now almost 40 points in the team scoring total, and in large part thanks to the strong running here. And I would assume whether you're in an Oregon uniform or not, these guys are all training together. So despite the fact that it's not the entire Oregon team there in front, there's a feeling of familiarity amongst the people you're running with.
Most definitely. I'd love to see some of those workouts, boy. I bet they're like races because there is that incredible group of very hungry, very motivated young runners with also a very good veteran crew like Hussein, Slenning, Harrison, Matthew Erickson, and Elliott Cook. We're getting a little separation now, and Josh Edwards, who actually was the second leading returner from the meet last year. Josh was 11th at the Dellinger. He's a sophomore, and the only person that's in today's field that beat him was Abdi Nasser Hussein, who was 10th last year. So Josh Edwards going right to the 4.
So the sophomore has the lead now, just a couple of tenths behind him. Isaiah Sturry, also one of those unattached athletes. Cal Poly's William Fellini-Haas trying to break up that Oregon love fest here at the front. His teammate Davis Cove is among the leaders now, currently in 5th position, running alongside Archie Noakes.
A little surprised at Sturry up at the front there, Paul. His 3,000 meter best, 8:08, 2 miles, 9:19, 1 mile, 4:09. He is a 152-800 guy, but a little surprising to see him up there in the front. And Sturry's the one with the USA uniform. Looks very good, running next to Edwards. Looks like Simeon Birnbaum is moving up quite a bit too, with his trademark sunglasses, and he's now in that lead pack. And I do not want to be in a race with Simeon Birnbaum if it comes down to a kick. He is one tough customer at the end of races. So, the question really is, Paul, is Sturry for real here or not? The credentials don't speak to it, but you never know.
Well, and what's interesting, too, Tom, is an almost immediate flip here of the team standings between those last 2 splits as Cal Poly has moved back into the lead. It's not that, and again, this is the way you have to sort of frame it, is like there are a lot of Oregon runners up there, but most of them now are not scoring for Oregon today. And so the guys in the singlets are the ones you're wanting to keep an eye on, and Cal Poly taking advantage with 2 strong runners near the front. That's kind of giving them sort of a good start here to a potential for a team title at the Bill Dellinger Invitational.
William Fellini Haas is an interesting story from Cal Poly. He's a senior. He was 4th in the Big West 5K and 10K in 2022. Did not run track this past spring, but he is just a nails cross-country runner. 3rd in the Big West in 21, 2nd in the Big West in 22, and then to start the season off this year, 2nd in the Big West preview meet. So this Cal Poly group is so good. You can see Birnbaum there at the back of that pack. Question is now there is a little separation. Can he get himself back into the front? We only have, roughly about 7 minutes left in this race. So this is going to be go time for a couple of these athletes to make sure that they're in that groove where they can win this race or get points for their team. It's really this is kind of the time. And Sturry seems to be opening it up a little bit, Paul.
Yeah, Isaiah Sturry now with a good few strides ahead of the rest of the field. William Fellini Haas, one of those 2 Cal Poly athletes trying to cover that move, and a good shot from high above there. You see now 7 men there in that lead group, probably a couple of seconds between the front and the back as things begin to string out behind them in this race to the finish as the men's 8K closes in on the final few minutes of the race.
And Davis Cove coming up now for Cal Poly. As I mentioned, Bove, the Arturo Barrios winner in 21. And he looks pretty good, and he's got that terrific leg speed where he's a 3:39 1500 guy, 3:56 miler, 7:53 in the 3000, and he is absolutely just taken this race by the scruff of its neck and looks so smooth and effortless, Paul.
Yeah, last 60 seconds changed the complexion of that race for the moment.
And Fellini Haas looks like he's right behind him, so Cal Poly 1-2. And this looks like just a jog for Davis Bove. Wow, does he look good. And this is a guy, you talk about the transfer. So he came from LSU. He came from a Big 5 program, or Power 5 program, to one that could be considered smaller, but Cal Poly has always had this great distance program. And, dating back to the Steve Miller, John Capriati days when, and of course, Mark Conover, may he rest in peace, and all of this great history that Cal Poly has had. And it's very exciting to see Davis Bove come to this program, and they are going to elevate. And I can guarantee you, Paul, that in 2 weeks they will not be ranked 7th in the West region.
Well, this is a good display here so far. We'll note that those first 3 places on the live results you see there were actually, I believe, athletes that were picked up by the timing mats who were not crossing the line 1st, 2nd, and 3rd when they were picked up by that. So Davis Bove, who's listed in 4th, is actually the current leader in the race. His teammate William Fellini Haas is 2nd, and then Isaiah Sturry and Josh Edwards, a pair of the 2 unattached Oregon athletes there. The top duck athlete in uniform, Quincy Norman, and then Simeon Birnbaum, Estanis Ruiz, and Archie Noakes, another trio of unattached athletes for Oregon, round out the top 8 on the men's side as they go past that finish line, I believe, for the final time as they start to close in on the final stages here of the 2023 Bill Dellinger Invitational. And Cal Poly now in a good stead there. You can't ask for anything more than having the top 2 runners on your squad, 1st and 2nd, as they head past the next timing mat. Bove now opened up about a 4-second advantage on his teammate. Josh Edwards now about 8 seconds back. And then back to Norman. Birnbaum has slowly and steadily moved up in the order. He's now back in 5th position in the closing stretches. Top athlete outside of Oregon Cal Poly, that's Ethan Godsey from UC Santa Barbara, back in 8th position. And then Cal Poly has their 3rd runner through that last timing mat in 11th position, and then back to Aiden McCarthy in 15th position. So things looking really good now for Cal Poly on the team side. That Oregon making it interesting, unofficially see the difference of 15 points between the two. So again, it's going to be critical back probably now to the 4th and 5th runners for both squads and how they can move up here in the closing stages.
Well, and what's ironic is that Oregon's runners that are running unattached, Edwards in 3rd, Birnbaum in 5th, Ruiz in 6th, Jury in 7th, they could make up, they would be the winning team. And Norman and Elliott Cook are the, obviously the two that are wearing the Duck uniform. Norman is a kind of an underrated guy, Paul. 858 steepler, 1348 for 5,000. He was 13th at this meet last year, so he really knows this course. He's a junior, so a lot of upside for him. 5th at the Pac-12s last year. But look at the lead that Davis Cove has, and look at the margin that Fellini-Haas has over Edwards. And then you got Birnbaum and Norman going at it there for 4th and 5th. What a start, though, for Simeon Birnbaum. Remember, he ran in the Pan American Junior Championships this year and finished 2nd in the 800. So he had a very long track season. One other note about Birnbaum, Paul. So he's from South Dakota, not exactly a hotbed of distance running, but also the best beach volleyball player in the world, or almost in the world, comes from South Dakota, Taryn Cloth. So South Dakota is starting to germinate these athletes.
I knew you were going to try to get a beach volleyball reference in. It's sort of like a thing. Should also mention, got a nice text from somebody we both know very well, David Monty, who covers the sport day in and day out so well, and mentioned that Bove is also a professional triathlete. So we've got a lot of cross-sport appeal here, and being able to showcase these athletes in an environment like the Bill Dellinger Invitational is a great way to start the season here. And he is in full stride now and in kind of splendid isolation here as he works his way down these final undulations on the Pine Ridge Golf Club course in Springfield and closing in on a Bill Dellinger victory. And, I don't care if you've been running in the SEC, you know the heritage of the University of Oregon. These runners, know what it means to come here, and he's taken a couple of looks around, but staying on the line there as though it's kind of the tangent. He's trying to run to the finish line here like a good road racer. But 23 minutes elapsed now in this 8-kilometer, and Bove seemingly now in the home stretch here as he's going to be shown the way into the final chute. One more big look around, and now he can enjoy himself a little bit. But the race behind is going to be interesting here as we got a flurry of a quartet of athletes trying to close the gap here in the final stretches.
Davis Cove striding down
on to the finish line here. There is now Birnbaum.
Here comes Simeon Birnbaum.
On cue, as it were, but it'll be Davis Cove making his name known here now on the West Coast as the Bill Dellinger champion. Quincy Norman's going to finish just ahead of Birnbaum there in 2nd position. So the Ducks get their first athlete across, and then
Fellini-Haas.
Yep, and then Josh Edwards, the unattached Oregon athlete, in 4th. Fellini-Haas makes it 2 from Cal Poly. Coming across in the top 5, Elliott Cook up into finishing in 7th position. And now we'll start to look at the finishers down into those teens especially. And I note Cal Poly now with 2 of their athletes there. You see them coming across the line in what looks like about 14th, maybe 15th or 16th position. And their last 5th runner coming across the line there just as we spoke, Colton Swinth, coming through in what looks like about 21st position. So it would appear for the moment that Cal Poly got their first 5 across before Oregon did, and that will be confirmed here in a moment. That real-time scoring updating as they'll pull some of the unattached athletes out of the standings and be scoring this thing in real time to reflect those who were eligible for scoring on this beautiful Friday in Western Oregon.
I think the keynote here is, aside from the marvelous performance turned in by Cal Poly, which to many respects was expected, but I think that you see with the University of Oregon, some of these guys, how can you redshirt Simeon Birnbaum? He finished 3rd. I mean, it's hard to redshirt a guy that's running that well. Quincy Norman did what he was supposed to do. Elliott Cook, who was 1st in their first meet this year, he ran very well in 7th. But it's got to be tempting to take Birnbaum and hey, let's go, right? Steve Prefontaine ran as a freshman for the University of Oregon. So let's go Simeon Birnbaum. But boy, what a spectacular start to his college career.
So the rest of the field coming to the line here as Cal Poly has unofficially taken the team title here as well as the individual title on the men's side of the Bill Dellinger Invitational. UC Riverside there in third currently with unofficial results still to be made official. Idaho and then California rounding out the top five. As was mentioned at the outset of the broadcast, Portland had a kind of a split squad this weekend, one of the top teams in the Northwest, and their second, or B squad as it were, coming down to Eugene today and racing to unofficially a 6th place finish here at Dellinger.
Yes, and a couple notes. You mentioned David Monty, who is as knowledgeable about road race competition as anybody you will ever meet in the world. And he is just a marvelous human being, as well as his wife Jane. But to add on to this, let's talk about UC Riverside in third. Their coach has done a marvelous job at kind of turning that program around. It's Nate Brown. He's in his 8th year, and you'll see a lot of UC Riverside this next race with Linda Perez. But Andrew Castellon finishing 12th for UC Irvine, or for UC Riverside, excuse me, and then Lorenz Herman for Idaho. Lorenz Herman's a 146-800 guy, the Big Sky champion in 2022 and second in 2023. For an 800 guy, he did very well, finishing 13th. So a couple of names: Carrick Denker from California, an unlooked for 9th. Ethan Godsey, who we expected to do some stuff, very good, strong performance for him. He's only a sophomore. He finished 8th. So some good results down the line a little bit, Paul.
Yeah, and back to kind of reflecting on the decisions that are ahead for the Oregon program, as had they had all their runners in Oregon singlets today, they would have finished 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, and 10th.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's just so strong. It's really exciting if you're a Oregon fan to not only have this veteran crew that we saw, led by Quincy Norman, who finished 2nd, but these freshman athletes are such an exciting group. And as I said in the open, I don't think that there's ever been a middle distance, at least American middle distance recruit crop like Oregon has this year.
So a reminder, the women's race coming up in about 17 minutes from now, 45 minutes after the hour, as the final finishers come through here on the men's side to wrap up this 8K distance for the men at the Bill Dellinger Invitational.
Paul, Astanis Ruiz, who was 6th, he's an 8:29 steeplechaser. Actually ran it at Hayward Field in 2022. He's from